After discovering my brother's wedding was fake and being excluded, our once close bond is shattered, leaving me heartbroken. In the depths of our hearts, we carry relationships that we think will withstand any storm. But what if one day, a single event shatters that belief? This story isn't just about a wedding, it's about betrayal, family, and the raw reality of realizing that the bonds we thought were unbreakable may only have been strong from one side. The story begins with a close sibling relationship that anyone would envy. The narrator, a woman in her 30s, and her older brother were inseparable from childhood. They shared secrets, celebrated each other's achievements, and were there for each other's biggest moments. For this woman, her brother was more than family, he was part of her identity. They had matching tattoos, talked nearly every day, and were deeply woven into each other's lives. She had named her child after him and had chosen him to play a significant role in her wedding. He was the one who walked her down the aisle, symbolizing a relationship that went beyond the ordinary. However, as her brother began planning his own wedding, this bond would face an unimaginable test. When her brother announced his wedding, she was filled with excitement, imagining that she would play a central role in this special day, just as he had in hers. Yet, to her surprise, he chose a friend, rather than her, as his best man. Hurt, but trying to be supportive, she suppressed her feelings, wanting his day to be perfect. In her heart, she knew she would do anything for him, even if it meant stepping back. This emotional compromise marked the beginning of a series of small betrayals. As the wedding planning continued, she found herself sidelined. The wedding party, comprised mainly of her brother's friends from out of state, displayed a mean girl attitude, making her feel like an outsider in a family event. Decisions were made without her input, and her suggestions were brushed off. Her ideas for attire were dismissed, with suggestions given to her that were out of her budget and taste. Still, she pushed through, clinging to the idea that she was doing all this out of love for her brother. On the day of the wedding, a shocking revelation awaited her. After a drag queen performance, it was announced that her brother and his partner had already been married for a year. This event was a mere celebration, a fake wedding for show. She realized that everyone else in the wedding party had known about the prior marriage, except for her and a few family members. The revelation left her feeling humiliated and betrayed, as if she had been the target of a cruel joke. As the night went on, her mother, who had also been left in the dark and had contributed financially to the wedding, confronted her son, while her mother's disappointment turned into support for her daughter. The emotional damage was done. She had sacrificed time, money, and energy, flying in from out of state, renting accommodations, and even creating handmade accessories for the wedding, all for a celebration that was built on a lie. But beyond the money and effort, it was the personal betrayal that cut the deepest. For a year, her brother had looked her in the eye, joining in her life's biggest moments, knowing he had deceived her. In a conversation with her brother and his new husband later that night, she tried to hold back her emotions, choosing to express her feelings at a later time to avoid disrupting their event. However, her brother's husband mocked her, asking if she was upset, and dismissing her feelings. Despite her brother's tears and apologies, his actions and his husband's cruelty were clear. The words stung, but it was their lack of genuine remorse that marked the final blow to her trust. After this incident, her relationship with her brother shifted dramatically. She blocked them both on social media and asked to be cropped out of the wedding photos, not wanting a reminder of what she saw as a sham event. In the days that followed, her brother made no attempt to reach out or mend the rift, leaving her to confront the stark realization that she valued their relationship far more than he did. This loss of trust forced her to question the foundation of their closeness. Had she misunderstood their bond, or was he truly a different person from who she thought? Reflecting on her family dynamics, she wrestled with questions of loyalty and self-worth. She wondered if she was being overly dramatic or unreasonable. But with each memory of his lies, she grew more certain that her feelings were justified. The betrayal went beyond the wedding day. It was about the pattern of deceit and disregard for her feelings. In one of their final exchanges, her brother's husband even went as far as to call her a narcissist, a statement that added insult to injury, considering they had orchestrated an event that disregarded the emotions of those closest to them. This story serves as a lesson on boundaries and self-respect. It teaches that loyalty should be reciprocated, and blind devotion can sometimes lead to self-destruction. By the end, she knew that the relationship with her brother might never be the same. In moving forward, she would focus on surrounding herself with people who truly valued and respected her. This experience taught her the importance of setting boundaries, even with family, and that sometimes, letting go of toxic relationships is the healthiest choice one can make. This tale is a reminder of how fragile family bonds can be and how betrayal can come from the most unexpected places. It highlights the courage it takes to stand up for oneself and the painful, yet liberating realization that some relationships are worth letting go of, no matter how close they once were. In the end, she chose her own peace over a fractured bond, walking away from a relationship that had defined her but could no longer sustain her sense of self-worth. Through the heartbreak, she found strength and the resolve to rebuild her life with a new perspective. One rooted in respect, truth, and self-love. My parents are making me give up my baby for adoption. I'm heartbroken and unsure of what to do next. They've left me with no choice. As the warm autumn breeze swept through the trees outside her window, Emily sat alone in her room, her heart pounding as she pressed her hand over the growing bump on her belly. She felt the flutter of life inside her, a tiny presence that, despite everything, filled her with an inexplicable mixture of fear and wonder. Emily was only 16, but she knew her life had already changed irrevocably. She had always imagined herself on a different path. She wanted to finish high school, maybe go to college, and find a career that would make her proud. Yet here she was, caught in a web of decisions far beyond her years. Decisions that seemed to grow more complicated with each passing day. Her parents had laid down the verdict. The baby would be given up for adoption. They saw this as her only choice. To them, it was the only reasonable path, one that would protect her future, keep her free from the responsibilities that they felt would ruin her life. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that the decision was being stolen from her. She had never considered herself rebellious. She had always been the quiet, obedient daughter who rarely questioned authority. But this time, something deep within her resisted. She knew the odds were stacked against her. She was young, without a stable income, and the baby's father had made it clear he wasn't interested in being a parent. Her logical mind understood why her parents insisted on adoption. Yet her heart, fragile and determined, wasn't ready to surrender so easily. Growing up, Emily had always been close to her parents. They were a traditional family, one that valued discipline and responsibility. Her parents had high expectations for her, expectations she'd worked hard to meet. Good grades, part-time jobs, volunteering, she had done it all to earn their pride. Her family wasn't wealthy, but they were stable, and her parents took pride in raising her with values they thought would serve her well. Emily's father, a retired Navy officer, had always been strict yet fair. He believed in order, in planning, in thinking ahead. Her mother, a nurse, was practical and compassionate but rarely indulged Emily's whims. They weren't cruel, and they loved her in their own way. But as she faced this unexpected pregnancy, she felt their love growing colder, harder, as if they were punishing her for what they saw as a monumental failure. Then there was Noah, the father of her unborn child. Noah had been a friend, someone she worked with at the local diner. He was older, 18, and about to graduate. They had shared moments together, but their connection was fleeting, a mix of youthful curiosity and excitement. Emily had always known Noah wasn't interested in anything serious. He was planning to join the military, to move away, to start a life of his own. But in her quiet, unspoken dreams, she had hoped he might feel something deeper for her. They had been friends, after all, even if their relationship never blossomed into romance. The day she found out she was pregnant, Emily's world tilted. The 2 pink lines on the test left her numb, her hands trembling as she tried to make sense of what was happening. She felt a rush of emotions, fear, confusion, disbelief, all at once. She had heard stories of other girls in her school facing similar situations. Girls who had dropped out or disappeared after the rumors started. Emily had never imagined she'd be one of them. Telling her parents was the hardest part. She still remembered their faces, the shock that quickly morphed into anger and disappointment. Her mother's words cut the deepest. "You've thrown away everything, Emily, everything we've worked for." Her father's silence, though, hurt even more. He simply left the room, unable to look at her, as if she was a stranger who had betrayed him. Her parents had made up their minds almost instantly. To them, the solution was clear. She would carry the pregnancy to term and then give the baby up for adoption. They told her it was her punishment, a lesson she had to learn. In their eyes, this was a temporary setback, one she would move past once the baby was out of her life. But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this decision, though logical, was crushing her spirit. Each time she looked in the mirror, she saw the weight of it, the loss of control over her own life. She didn't know if she was ready to be a mother, but she wasn't sure she could live with giving her child away either. In the weeks that followed, Emily kept her struggles to herself. She couldn't talk to her friends about it, they wouldn't understand. And Noah, though sympathetic, was clearly relieved by her parents' plan. He had his own dreams, his own life to build, and he wasn't willing to change them for a baby he had never planned to have. One night, feeling utterly alone, Emily found herself scrolling through online forums, searching for stories like hers. She wanted to know if others had faced the same decision, if they had managed to find peace with adoption, or if they had found another path. She read stories from young mothers who had chosen to keep their babies, and from those who had given them up. Each story was different, filled with its own heartbreak and triumphs, but none of them could give her the answer she sought. Emily's heart ached as she read a story about a young mother who had chosen adoption and regretted it every day since. She couldn't imagine carrying that pain, that sense of loss. But then she found another story, one where a woman had given up her baby and later reconnected, finding solace in knowing her child was happy and loved. That story gave Emily a sliver of hope, though it didn't make her choice any easier. A few weeks into her second trimester, her parents arranged a meeting with an adoption counselor. Emily went along, feeling more like an observer in her own life than a participant. The counselor, a gentle woman named Karen, asked Emily to step into a private room with her. For the first time, someone was willing to listen to Emily's feelings, to her fears and doubts. Karen assured her that while adoption was an option, it had to be her choice. She reminded Emily that she would ultimately be the one to sign the papers, and no one could force her to do it if she wasn't ready. This conversation lit a small spark within Emily. She realized that, despite her parents' insistence, she still had a say. She began to imagine other possibilities, other paths she might take, though none of them seemed easy. Karen mentioned the option of finding a family who would allow her to stay connected to her child, or even the possibility of her parents adopting the baby if they changed their minds. But Emily's parents had made it clear they weren't interested in raising another child. As her pregnancy progressed, Emily knew she needed to explore every option. She reached out to Noah's parents, hoping they might offer a different perspective. To her surprise, they were understanding, even supportive, though they hadn't expected to become grandparents under these circumstances. They believed it was their duty to help Emily find a solution that honored her wishes. They offered to let her stay with them after the baby was born, to help her finish high school and even consider college if she wished. This kindness touched Emily deeply, but it also made her feel even more conflicted. She had never known Noah's parents well, and the thought of living with virtual strangers, of becoming a part of their family, felt both comforting and terrifying. They weren't asking her to marry Noah, though that option was still on the table if she chose it. But they wanted to give her a place to figure things out, a safe haven where she could make her choice without pressure. In the final months of her pregnancy, Emily found herself at a crossroads. Each path before her was fraught with challenges. She could go through with her parents' plan, give the baby up for adoption, and try to move on with her life. Or she could take a leap of faith, accept the help of Noah's family, and attempt to raise her child. Knowing the sacrifices and hardships that path would bring, Emily thought of her child, of the life he would have, and of the mother she wanted to become. She knew she was young and that the road ahead would be difficult. But she also knew that love and determination were powerful forces. She didn't have all the answers, but she realized that no matter what she chose, she wanted it to be a decision made from a place of courage, not fear. In the end, Emily decided to keep her baby. With the support of Noah's family, she would finish school, pursue a career, and raise her son with the love and resilience she had discovered within herself. She knew her journey wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in months, she felt a sense of peace. Years later, looking back, Emily knew she had made the right choice for her Her journey had taught her the value of self-trust and the importance of fighting for her own happiness. She learned that, while family could be a source of support, sometimes it was up to her to carve her path. The experience had transformed her, giving her a depth of strength and compassion she had never known. Through her struggles, Emily discovered that life's hardest decisions often reveal our true selves. And as she watched her son grow, she knew that her choice, though difficult, had led her to a life filled with love and purpose. My boyfriend lied to me about having a vasectomy, which got me pregnant. The beginning of any relationship often comes with excitement and hope, a vision for what could be. But sometimes, beneath that charm lies a web of deception and manipulation, waiting to be unraveled. This is the story of one woman's experience with betrayal and how she found the strength to protect herself. Her journey is both a cautionary tale and a testament to resilience. And it serves as a reminder of the importance of setting boundaries, trusting one's instincts, and valuing one's own well-being above all. It started like any other romance. Sarah, a 34-year-old graphic designer with a history of overcoming trauma, met Finn, a charismatic, thoughtful, and seemingly compassionate man in his late 40s. For Sarah, Finn was the type of partner she had always envisioned. He had the confidence and maturity she admired, and he seemed to be deeply interested in her as a person. At first, his understanding of her struggles with intimacy due to PTSD seemed like a blessing. He was patient, never pushed her, and respected her need to feel safe and build trust. His kindness, humor, and the gentle way he approached their relationship allowed Sarah to feel comfortable, even hopeful. However, Sarah had a firm boundary regarding her future and autonomy. She did not want children, a decision rooted in her personal circumstances and health concerns. This boundary was clear from the outset. Finn even assured her he shared the same vision. However, as time passed and their intimacy grew, Finn subtly began pressing her on the topic of unprotected intimacy. Sarah, cautious and always aware of the potential consequences, insisted on using protection. She even went on birth control to double up on precautions. But she still required him to wear a condom for added security. Over time, Finn's respect for Sarah's boundaries began to erode. He started questioning the need for condoms, expressing his dissatisfaction, and framing it as an impediment to their closeness. Sarah, uncomfortable with his complaints, stood firm, reminding him of her reasons and her unwavering decision to avoid pregnancy. Finn's annoyance surfaced one evening during an argument, where he dismissed her concerns, saying, "I bend over backward for you, but I don't get to feel good because of your fears." Despite her discomfort, Sarah brushed it off, attributing it to a bad night. Finn's demeanor returned to its usual charm the next morning, taking her out to a spa and treating her to thoughtful gestures, temporarily easing her worries. But Sarah's trust was starting to erode, replaced by a subtle but growing unease. Months passed, and during one intimate encounter, Finn mentioned casually that he had undergone a vasectomy. He framed it as a gesture of love, a way to eliminate Sarah's concerns about pregnancy. Relieved, Sarah let her guard down and allowed the intimacy to proceed without protection. In that moment, her trust had been manipulated, her boundaries undermined by the man she loved. Weeks later, Sarah missed her period, assuming it was stress. She waited, but when the symptoms continued, she knew she had to confirm her fears. When the pregnancy test read positive, Sarah's heart sank. She had been explicit about her stance on children and her health risks, and she felt betrayed and blindsided. Finn's reaction, however, was nothing short of ecstatic. He laughed, embraced her, and framed it as fate. For him, this was a happy accident, a miracle. But for Sarah, it was a breach of trust, a violation of the deepest kind. As they spoke, Sarah confronted Finn about the vasectomy, trying to make sense of how this could have happened. To her horror, Finn confessed that he had lied about the procedure, intending to secure her trust and gain what he wanted. He minimized her distress, brushing off her anger and framing his deception as a testament to his love. "This is meant to be," he insisted, ignoring her horror-stricken face. Feeling cornered, Sarah made the difficult decision to seek medical assistance to end the pregnancy. When she shared her choice with Finn, he became enraged, accusing her of murdering his child, calling her a monster. The kind, patient man she had once known was replaced by a furious stranger. He blocked her exit, demanded she stay, and berated her, forcing her to call for help just to escape his presence. Sarah knew she had to prioritize her safety, both physical and emotional. She left, but Finn continued to hound her, calling and texting relentlessly, begging her to reconsider and threatening her with repercussions if she didn't. His messages oscillated between declarations of love and accusatory threats, all designed to wear her down and bring her back under his control. Sarah was left reeling from the emotional whiplash, unsure how to move forward but determined to protect herself. During this time, Sarah's friends became her support system, helping her find a temporary place to stay and encouraging her to take legal action. Finn's harassment didn't let up. In fact, he even involved members of his religious community, who bombarded Sarah with judgmental messages, calling her a murderer and demanding she submit to Finn's wishes. Despite their vitriol, Sarah stood firm, seeking comfort in her friends and relying on her own strength to pull through. In a bid to put an end to the harassment, Sarah reached out to Finn's family, sharing her story and the recordings she had made of his behavior. To her relief, Finn's mother and sister expressed empathy, acknowledging the toxicity of his actions. His mother even admitted to her own struggles with a manipulative partner in her youth, showing Sarah the compassion she had been deprived of. This connection became a pivotal moment for Sarah, reaffirming her decision to stand up for herself and her right to live free from manipulation. Finn's behavior escalated once he realized he was losing control. On one occasion, he showed up at Sarah's house uninvited, banging on her door and yelling obscenities, threatening her safety. Thankfully, Sarah's friends were there, and Finn eventually left, humiliated and defeated. Knowing she had the support and protection of those who cared for her gave Sarah the strength to keep going. With time and distance, Sarah began to heal. She continued therapy, working through the trauma Finn's betrayal had inflicted on her. She realized that, in many ways, Finn had preyed upon her trust and vulnerability, using her openness against her. Reflecting on her journey, Sarah found herself more attuned to the red flags she had once overlooked. She saw how Finn's subtle manipulation and dismissiveness had chipped away at her boundaries, how he had used charm and kindness as a mask for his underlying need for control. In the end, Sarah emerged from the experience stronger and wiser. Her story is one of resilience, a reminder of the importance of autonomy, and the dangers of deception in intimate relationships. Through her journey, Sarah became an advocate for others in similar situations, encouraging them to trust their instincts, respect their own boundaries, and never be afraid to walk away from a relationship that feels unsafe or unhealthy. Sarah's experience also offers a lesson on the importance of a strong support system. Her friends and even Finn's own family played crucial roles in helping her regain her footing and escape a dangerous situation. In the aftermath, Sarah vowed to use her voice to raise awareness about emotional manipulation and reproductive coercion, speaking out on behalf of those who might not yet recognize the warning signs. Ultimately, Sarah's journey is a testament to the power of resilience, self-respect, and the courage to protect oneself from harm. Her story stands as a powerful reminder that no one should ever have to sacrifice their well-being or dreams for the sake of another's desires. It underscores the value of personal agency and the strength that comes from standing firm in one's boundaries, even in the face of opposition. The lie that shattered Sarah's trust became a turning point in her life, pushing her toward a deeper understanding of self-worth. She learned that true love respects boundaries, values autonomy, and never resorts to deception. Her journey is one of hope and healing, a beacon for anyone who has ever felt trapped by the manipulations of another. In the end, Sarah found freedom not just from Finn but from the patterns that had kept her bound, stepping into a future where she could live fully, freely, and unapologetically.